My name was Amir. I was a respected prosecutor, a diligent Muslim, in a community that demanded strict adherence to tradition. I wore my faith like armor, but deep within, I was crumbling. Despite my outer success, there was an abyss of emptiness that gnawed at my soul. It was a tension I could no longer ignore, a quiet whisper that began to rise during my prayers, sowing seeds of doubt. What if everything I held sacred was built on a fragile foundation? Then came the accident, a split second of chaos that sent my world spiraling into darkness. I found myself caught between life and death, suspended in a void where time ceased to exist. And in that terrifying silence, a light engulfed me, illuminating truths I had never known. It was in that moment that I heard him, Jesus. His voice resonated deep within me, revealing a cosmic battle between faith and oppression, a spiritual war, one never realized I was a part of. When I returned, I was not the same. I carried with me a burden, an unsettling clarity about the manipulation I had been living under. Sharing my experience with my family and community felt impossible. I feared their wrath. They could never understand that I was being called to something greater, something that shattered the chains of control that bound us. As I navigated this treacherous path, I began secretly seeking the truth. I pored over the Bible, listened to testimonies of others who had ventured into the light, and struggled against the deepened isolation that came with my awakening. But the urge to share what I found burned within me, an urgency to reveal not just my truth, but the truth of many who feel trapped under the weight of oppression. So here I stand today, on the edge of a new beginning, ready to shatter the silence that has kept so many in bondage. I have learned that the journey to freedom is fraught with peril, yet it is also the most sacred mission of my life. With each word I speak, I pray others will find their path to liberation, just as I did. Before we delve into the depths of this life-altering revelation, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it in your corner of the world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find yourself feeling the stirrings of truth, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. You're about to witness a transformation that transcends all understanding. Join me on this journey, because the next chapter is just beginning. In the heart of Washington, D.C., I navigate the complexities of my role as a prosecutor, caught within a conservative neighborhood steeped in strict Islamic traditions. My name is Fareed, and each day I find myself straddling the line between the expectations of my community and the whispers of my own heart. The rules that govern this space are clear, emphasizing obedience and reverence, yet beneath that surface lies a deep-seated fear and repression that threatens the youth who come of age here. As I grapple with my duties in the courtroom, I often feel like a solitary figure, an island amidst the rising tide of generational doubts. It was during an ordinary session in grand jury proceedings that everything changed. As I stood to present my case, I felt an intense heaviness settle in around me, as if the room were tightening its grip. The arguments flowed out of my mouth, but inside, I was spiraling into deep uncertainty. Suddenly, as the jury listened intently, I collapsed, thrusting me into a state beyond consciousness. I was pulled into a void that quickly transformed into an extraordinary plane of light, a place that felt both profoundly peaceful and eerily familiar. Before me stood Jesus, a radiant figure whose presence exuded an overwhelming love that filled every crevice of my being. "Fareed," he said. And with that, I felt an intimate connection, a thread pulled taut across the chasm of my confusion. "You are witnessing a spiritual war," he continued, his voice echoing in my mind, reshaping everything I thought I understood. In that moment, layers of my life and beliefs began to peel away, revealing truths that had remained hidden for far too long. The revelations bore down on me like a weight, yet felt liberating as well. They shattered the confines of my rigid upbringing and offered the promise of awakening. As I listened, the veil was lifted. I saw how the manipulation of the elite created crises of faith within our communities, sowing the seeds of division and misunderstanding. Wars fought in the name of justice were often shrouded in deception, wielded by those who sought to maintain control over the masses. I was struck by how easily fear could cloud judgment, how the systems intended to uphold justice often serve to oppress. The stark realization of my own imprisonment within these traditions began to take form, igniting a sense of urgency to explore this awakening that Jesus had so kindly unfolded before me. As the visions cascaded, I was shown not only the plight of my own community, but also the broader implications of our collective journey. Technology, which promised to connect us, often became a weapon of surveillance in the hands of those who thrived on division. I could feel the pain of my people, the youth grappling with identity, torn between cultural expectations and personal truths. Jesus urged me to rise above the fear, to confront the deception head-on, and to act as a guide for those seeking refuge from the confusion that clouded their lives. The truth wasn't meant to be hoarded. It was meant to be shared, to illuminate the path for others still buried under the weight of societal pressure. Just as my understanding began to crystallize, I felt the warmth of that otherworldly light begin to fade. I was being pulled back into my body, thrust into the reality of the courtroom, where a hush had fallen over the jury. Panic surged through me as the realizations I had just encountered raced through my mind. Could I truly embrace this new identity? Would I be able to share these revelations with the very community that had raised me? I stood there, rejuvenated yet terrified, bearing the weight of a spiritual awakening that begged to be expressed. With Jesus' reminders still echoing in my heart, I felt prepared to face whatever lay ahead, convinced that I would use my voice as a powerful weapon against the deception surrounding me. This was the beginning of a journey, my mission to challenge the status quo and lead others into the light of truth. In the corridors of the courthouse where I work as a prosecutor, I often navigate the complex interplay of justice, legality, and human emotion. My name is Amir, and while many perceive me as a dedicated professional, beneath that facade lies a deep spiritual emptiness, a gnawing feeling that something significant is missing from my life. At 35, I've built a respectable career, yet I can't shake the sense of disconnection I feel from deeper truths. The responsibilities weigh heavily on my shoulders, yet they often feel like chains that bind me to a life that doesn't fulfill my soul's yearning for meaning. In quiet moments, I find myself grappling with an unacknowledged longing, one that gnaws at my insides like a relentless hunger. I've always adhered to the tenets of my faith, but as I immerse myself in my duties, I sense an internal conflict brewing, a need to explore the spiritual landscape beyond the confines of tradition. The prayers I offer sometimes feel like mere routine, leaving me with an unsettling gap between the ritual and the true connection I secretly crave. I know there's more at play, a depth of understanding that transcends what I've been taught. One afternoon, during a particularly tense grand jury session, I felt an unfamiliar dizziness wash over me. Not physical, but a shift in my consciousness that sent me spiraling into a profound experience. I collapsed, and in that instant, I was drawn into an otherworldly realm, a space filled with light and love. It was there I met Jesus. His presence exuded an unearthly warmth, filling the void within me with a profound sense of peace and compassion. Amir, he spoke gently, almost as if recognizing the turmoil that lay beneath my surface. You're facing a spiritual war, one where the truth is clouded by the deceptions of those seeking to manipulate. In that sacred moment, revelations flowed into me, shedding light on the hidden agendas that had shaped my understanding of faith and society. I witnessed visions of how the elite had orchestrated division, using fear and manipulation as tools to maintain control over the masses. Wars waged in the name of peace were merely veils for power struggles, and technology once designed to connect us had become a weapon of surveillance and compliance. With each vision, I felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier within my soul. The realization struck me. I had been part of this cycle of deception for far too long, caught between my duties and the truth that beckoned me to understand more. Jesus urged me to embrace my awakening, to rise above the restraints of my previous understanding. I felt a surge of courage as I began to comprehend that this journey was not merely about seeking personal enlightenment. It was about sharing the truth I had discovered with a world ensnared in lies. There was an urgency in his words, as if the fate of many depended on my willingness to step into the light, to confront the fear that held me back from fully embracing my calling. I vividly imagined the countless lives that could be affected, if only I could summon the strength to challenge the narratives that kept us divided. As the light began to dim, I was pulled back to my physical body, the hum of the courtroom flooding my senses once again. My colleagues looked on in confusion, yet my heart raced with a newfound determination. I could no longer remain silent. This awakening was not just for me. It was meant to ripple through the lives of others who shared the same struggles, the same thirst for freedom from restrictive traditions that no longer served us. The truth I had encountered in that moment with Jesus would become my mission: to confront deception, challenge societal manipulations, and ignite the spiritual war within others who sought the truth as fiercely as I had. I felt the anticipation of the fight ahead. While uncertainty loomed, I knew that I was ready to embrace my role as a bearer of light in a world shrouded in darkness. In the quiet moments before dawn, I often found myself lost in prayer, seeking guidance as I navigated the complex world of prosecution. My name is Amir, and as a respected Muslim prosecutor, I had spent years upholding the laws that governed our society. But lately, a sense of discomfort settled heavily on my heart each time I engaged in my rituals. I felt a growing unease, a gnawing question lingering in the back of my mind. Were these prayers truly a connection to God, or merely a recitation of tradition? What once brought me solace now felt stale, like a cage that restricted my spirit rather than nourishing it. The disconnection only deepened during my dreams, which had taken on a bewildering quality. Each night, I'd find myself standing at a crossroads, enveloped in those familiar yet haunting images, a luminous figure I instinctively recognized as Jesus. In these dreams, he would beckon to me from a distance, and just as I reached out, I'd awaken with a racing heart, the encounter fading into uncertainty. I struggled to make sense of these experiences. They felt significant, yet they left me reeling with confusion. Was this a divine message meant to shake me from complacency, or merely a fleeting figment of my imagination? One particularly restless night, I awoke drenched in sweat, overwhelmed by the intensity of my dreams. They were filled with warnings about the world I inhabited, recounting how our faith could be exploited by the elite, wielded as a weapon to suppress the vulnerable under the guise of piety. In those visions, the spiritual war that I had only heard whispers about became terrifyingly clear, a battle for the souls of humanity. The more I contemplated these persistent dreams, the more determined I felt to break free from the doctrine that seemed to shackle me to fear and ignorance. As I delved deeper into this turmoil, something extraordinary happened. In one of my dreams, I found Jesus standing before me, radiant and serene. "Amir," he said, his voice echoing through the void, "you are being called to awaken." In that moment, an overwhelming wave of revelation washed over me. Boundless truths unfolded, transforming the fragments of my understanding into a coherent narrative that connected the dots of my existence. I learned how society had been manipulated through a carefully crafted deception, fostering division and fear instead of compassion and unity. The religious edifice I had revered was now under scrutiny, revealing how rigid interpretations often veiled the essence of love and freedom at the core of our spirituality. With this new purpose igniting my soul, I sensed the urgency to share what I had learned and to inspire others still ensnared by the norms of our community. I began taking small steps, engaging in quiet discussions with friends and colleagues, inviting them to explore the layers of truth that lay beneath the surface of tradition. Yet, as I prepared to voice my revelations, I couldn't ignore the fear that clawed at me. The fear of backlash from those who cherished the very beliefs I now questioned. The thought of alienation from my family and community loomed large, and I often found myself caught in the tension of wanting to speak out while fearing the consequences of doing so. But each time I felt the weight of that fear, I was reminded of the spiritual war one was now willingly stepping into. I understood that the path of awakening was not without its struggles, but the truth I had encountered demanded to be spoken. With Jesus guiding me, I resolved to face these obstacles head-on, knowing that the liberation I sought was just as important for others as it was for me. I was ready to engage in the fight against the hidden agendas that perpetuated deception, to illuminate the light of truth for those still searching in darkness. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet the hope of transformation fueled my determination, propelling me into the depths of this awakening, a calling I could no longer resist. The day began like any other. As a prosecutor, I juggled the intricate details of a high-profile investigation, the weight of justice pressing down on my shoulders. My name is Amir, and I had spent years trying to uphold the law, but beneath that exterior, an unsettling emptiness had taken root. As I drove through the busy streets of Washington, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, cases, deadlines, and the expectations placed upon me. Yet, there was this constant nagging feeling that something significant was missing in my life, an awareness that I was lost in a sea of obligation without grasping the deeper essence of truth. Then it happened. In an instant, everything changed. The screeching of tires interrupted my thoughts, and I suddenly found myself hurtling forward in a severe car accident. Time decelerated as I felt the impact, metal crumpling, glass shattering, and then blackness enveloped me. I was cast into a realm of darkness, one that felt devoid of time and space. As I drifted through this abyss, a sense of weightlessness overwhelmed me, but amidst the silence, I began to perceive a flicker of light in the distance. That light grew brighter, and soon I felt myself being drawn toward it, not out of fear, but with a sense of profound anticipation. As I moved closer, I was met by an overwhelming warmth. Jesus stood before me, radiating both love and understanding. His presence was soothing, yet powerful, as if he could see right through me, into the very depths of my soul. "Amir," he said, his voice resonating like a gentle echo, "this is your moment of awakening." His words washed over me, igniting a spark that chased away my previous confusion and despair. In that divine encounter, revelations began to unfold, illuminating truths I had long overlooked. I witnessed the spiritual war that plays out daily around us, the battle for belief and identity that resides in every soul. I saw how the elite manipulate perceptions and narratives, crafting a hidden agenda that benefits only a select few. The deception surrounding us was thick, a smokescreen obscuring the clarity of the divine truth that Jesus embodied. I began to understand how easily fear can divide us, fueling misunderstandings among communities that once thrived together. The weight of these insights was both exhilarating and terrifying, pushing me to confront the systems that had perpetuated these falsehoods. Jesus revealed how our modern world is plagued by conflicts fought under the banners of righteousness, wars that are easily ignited by the fear and ignorance embedded in our hearts. He urged me to see the potential for awakening within individuals, to recognize that many are yearning for freedom from the chains of dogma and deception. Each revelation carried a sense of urgency. I could feel the call to action growing stronger within me. This wasn't simply about me. It was about the collective struggle for truth, the fight against the forces that perpetuate division and conflict. As the light began to fade and I felt a pull back toward my earthly form, I knew I was returning transformed. The experience had forged a resolve within me, stirring a profound commitment to share these truths with others. The weight of my previous life faded as I understood my role in this spiritual war. I couldn't let the fear of rejection or loss dictate my path any longer. I was ready to stand against the tides of deception that threatened to drown those still lost in the darkness, fueled by the hope and truth that were now woven into my very being. My mission was clear: to be a light of awakening for others, ushering them toward the love and truth I had discovered in that extraordinary moment with Jesus. When I awoke from my near-death experience, the world felt altered, yet familiar, like stepping into a painting that had suddenly changed colors. My name is Amir, a 35-year-old prosecutor living in Washington, D.C., where the weight of my profession often collided with an insatiable quest for meaning. While I had always perceived my life as a series of duties and obligations, my encounter with Jesus had shattered that illusion, leaving me with a profound sense of purpose that I wasn't sure how to express. The revelations I had experienced in the light propelled me toward a new mission, yet that mission soon became a source of turmoil in my daily life. With each passing moment, I felt the burdens of my past creeping closer, the expectations of my family and community, as well as the role I played as a devoted Muslim. It was a life marked by traditions and respect, yet the truth I had discovered felt like a storm brewing within me. I sensed that my awakening would not be welcomed. When I gathered the courage to share my experiences, the reaction from my loved ones was swift and harsh. Accusations of heresy and betrayal cut deep, filling me with guilt and fear about losing everything I had built. I could barely hold back my tears as I faced their rejection, the disapproval echoing like a dark chorus in my mind. The loneliness that ensued was suffocating. I spent days wandering the city, caught in a cycle of despair and doubt, while outside, life continued as usual. I watched families and friends bonding over shared traditions, unaware of the internal struggle that churned within me. I felt like a shadow among them, a person trapped in a liminal space between what I had known and the truth I could no longer ignore. My heart yearned for reconciliation, but the chasm that had opened up felt insurmountable. With every glance at my family, I was reminded of my isolation and the heavy toll of misunderstanding. In the quiet moments, I turned to prayer, but even those felt different now, less like a routine and more like a desperate plea for understanding. I sought solace in the Bible I had begun to explore clandestinely, feeling drawn to those passages that spoke of love, redemption, and the courage to speak out against injustice. Each word felt like a balm for my soul, bridging the divide between my heart and the heritage I had once revered. I questioned how I could reconcile this newfound understanding with the laws and traditions I had been taught to uphold. The tension was palpable, while the longing for clarity grew stronger with each passing day. As I immersed myself deeper into my spiritual journey, I began to connect with others who had experienced similar transformations. I found a small group of believers who embraced my doubts and fears without judgment. In the safety of their acceptance, I began to nurture the truth I had found, sharing stories of my encounter and the urgency of the spiritual war that surrounds us. Together, we uncovered the hidden agendas that manipulate our beliefs, trap us in cycles of deception, and foster division among us. I realized I was not alone in my struggles, and the community became a source of strength as we navigated the complexities of faith and identity together. Yet, despite this newfound fellowship, the fear of my family's rejection still haunted me. Could I truly embrace my calling while risking permanent separation from those I loved? Each day I faced this question with an aching heart, torn between my desire for family loyalty and the calling to share the truth that had set me free. It was a painful dichotomy, but I understood now, more than ever, that the spiritual war required courage and resilience. I knew that the path forward would demand perseverance, and I was determined to rise and reclaim my voice, not just for myself, but for everyone still shackled by fear, waiting for their own awakening to begin. In the shadows of my office, I began my secret quest for truth, driven by a longing I could no longer ignore. I'm Amir, a prosecutor in Washington, D.C., where my life has often revolved around the law and a sense of duty. Each day felt like a mask I wore, one that suppressed the inner turmoil brewing inside me. After my encounter with Jesus, which altered my understanding of faith and reality, I found myself yearning for a deeper connection. The rituals I once performed were no longer satisfactory, they felt hollow against the backdrop of revelation I had experienced. So I took the bold step to delve into the Bible, hoping to uncover the truths that could guide my awakening. With each turn of the page, the words jumped out at me, imbued with a resonance I had never encountered before. I felt as though I was peeling back layers of deception, exposing the core of what I had been taught. In these sacred texts, I discovered stories of love, redemption, and the transformative power of faith. However, amid this exploration, I also faced intense internal conflict. My upbringing had instilled in me a deep reverence for tradition, and any deviation felt like an act of rebellion. I found myself wondering how to reconcile these teachings with the truths revealed to me. Was my new understanding a path to enlightenment or a path of division? As I searched for answers, I turned to testimonies from others who had undergone similar awakenings. Their stories felt like pieces of a puzzle, reflecting struggles that were painfully familiar. Each video I watched painted a picture of transformation. Individuals who had wrestled with their faith only to emerge more alive and free. The heartfelt accounts filled me with hope and urgency. I realized that I was not alone in feeling suffocated by a hidden agenda that sought to manipulate our beliefs and divide our communities. There was a collective experience of grappling with the same spiritual war that lingered on the fringes of our lives. My exploration eventually led me to a clandestine support group, a gathering of truth seekers who welcomed me into their fold. It was a place where I could share my doubts and fears without fear of judgment. Here, I found solace among other individuals who had faced the backlash of their journeys. We shared our experiences, discussed the revelations we had received, and articulated the nature of the deception that cloaked our society. It was a safe haven where I began to feel the heavy burden of isolation lift, replaced by a sense of belonging that I had craved for so long. Together, we began to recognize the patterns that had kept us bound, and the conversation quickly evolved into a calling for action. Yet, as I navigated this new world, the fear of rejection from my family continued to linger, like a shadow in the back of my mind. I thought often of the life I had left behind, of the community that had raised me, and the potential fallout from my newfound beliefs. Would they ever understand what I had encountered? The thought filled me with dread. How could I stand at the forefront of this awakening while feeling estranged from my own kin? Each day became a balancing act between faith and fear, driven by the urgency of the truths I had uncovered, yet rooted deeply in the desire for acceptance from those I loved. The more I delved into these spiritual conversations, the more I realized that my journey, while profoundly personal, was also a reflection of a much larger narrative. The awakening I experienced was not just about breaking free from old beliefs. It was about fighting against a system that had long kept us in darkness. The spiritual war was not limited to individual struggles. It was a collective fight for truth that affected us all. I understood that my role was to share the light I had received, to challenge the deception, and to advocate for love and unity in a world often torn apart by division. With every step I took within this new community, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My mission was just beginning, and as the call to action resonated within me, I realized I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that the truth I had discovered could spark change in the hearts of those still searching for their own awakening. The weight of my responsibilities as a prosecutor often felt daunting, but nothing prepared me for the experience that would transform my life forever. I'm Amir, and each day I walked into the courtroom, I carried the burdens of justice on my shoulders. I dedicated my life to defending the law with integrity, but inside, I wrestled with a deep unease, a sense that I was merely existing rather than truly living. The complaints and the whispers of doubt from the community loomed large, and I felt increasingly isolated in my struggle to find purpose and meaning beyond the rigid structure of my daily obligations. One afternoon, everything changed. During a particularly intense grand jury session, the energy in the room shifted, pressing in on me, drowning out my thoughts. As I began to present my case, an overwhelming wave of dizziness washed over me. I collapsed, and in that moment of uncoupling from my physical form, I found myself in an infinite expanse. It was a realm of indescribable light, away from the noise and chaos of the world I knew. In that space, I met Jesus, whose presence resonated with a love so profound that it enveloped me, washing away the fears and doubts I had clung to for so long. "Amir," he said with an authority that demanded my full attention, "you are called to more than just your profession. You are in the midst of a spiritual war." His words rang in my ears as vivid images began to unfold, overlapping stories of lives caught in the crossfire of a hidden agenda perpetuated by the elite. I watched as manipulation and deception shaped our societies, creating divisions meant to keep us from seeing the truth. I saw wars fought under the banners of righteousness, yet behind those flags lay the blood of innocence and the suffering of countless souls. As the revelations poured forth, I felt both joy and sorrow. I began to realize the weight of responsibility resting on my shoulders. This was not merely my awakening, it was a calling to share the truths I had discovered, to warn others of the hidden spiritual war they faced. Jesus illuminated the patterns that kept communities in tears, the societal structures that perpetuated the lies fed to us by those in power. The complexity of the entire landscape of human experience unfolded before me, and the urgency to act flooded my veins. But returning to my life after such a monumental experience was daunting. The fear of persecution loomed large in my mind. I felt the weight of my family's expectations and the potential fallout from my newfound convictions. Would they accept this radical transformation? The thought of rejection from those I loved caused me to hesitate. Yet deep down, I knew that the truth I had witnessed could not be ignored. There was no turning back. I had to embrace my role as a vessel of change, ready to confront the deception and shed light on the awakening that was desperately needed in my community. A realization settled in my heart. My journey was just beginning, and the fight for truth was beckoning me forward, no matter the risk. The decision to leave my home was not made lightly, but I knew I had to take that step for my own spiritual liberation. My friends know me as Amir, a prosecutor who was dedicated to his work, but inside I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of expectations and rigid traditions. The moment Jesus entered my life during that harrowing near-death experience, everything changed. He awakened a truth within me that I couldn't ignore. It was a calling to something much greater than myself, an opportunity to fight the spiritual war that rages silently around us. I walked through the familiar streets of Washington, D.C., but this time they felt different. Each step resonated with a newfound purpose as I adopted a new name, shedding the identity that felt so confining. The symbolism of this act felt powerful. I was no longer just Amir the prosecutor, bound by my profession and my past. I was rising as a seeker of truth. I could sense the hidden agenda that had kept so many, including myself, shackled in fear and ignorance. People walked past me, oblivious to the revelation pulsing in my heart, unaware of the deceptions woven into the fabric of our society. As I traversed the city toward a place of refuge, I reflected on the gravity of my choice. The fear of rejection from my family haunted my thoughts. Would they understand my transformation, or would they label me a heretic? The tightness in my chest reminded me of the cost of awakening, the risk of losing everything I held dear. Yet with each stride, I felt that same divine push urging me onward. Jesus had entrusted me with a mission, and I was determined to honor that calling, no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. I found solace in a small gathering of fellow believers who had also felt the tug of awakening. In their presence, I discovered a sense of belonging I had long sought. We shared stories of our struggles, the burdens of living in a world rife with manipulation, and the urgent need to expose the truths behind the facade of normalcy. Our discussions were filled with passion as we connected the dots between our personal journeys and the broader spiritual war at play in our communities. The revelations we exchanged unveiled how the elite orchestrate division, using technology and misinformation to distract and control the masses. Together, we began to unearth the hidden agenda that sought to manipulate our beliefs and perpetuate our suffering. However, as I engaged in this awakening, I couldn't escape the tension that adhered to my old life, the comfort of familiarity juxtaposed with the unknown that lay before me. Would my commitment to this path lead to the acceptance I sought, or would it only deepen the rift between myself and my loved ones? The fear lingered, but it started to morph into a fervent determination. I realized that my journey was not solely for my own liberation. It held the potential to resonate with others desperately seeking the truth. I was ready to step into this new identity, ready to confront the deception that had blinded so many, and to share the love and light that Jesus had bestowed upon me. The time for awakening had come, and I was prepared to be a catalyst for change no matter the cost. As I stepped into the world of evangelism, my heart was both heavy with the weight of my past and buoyed by a profound sense of purpose. I am Amir, a 35-year-old prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and my journey began from a place of deep spiritual confusion to one of clarity and awakening. After encountering Jesus during a grand jury session, a moment that transformed my understanding of faith and truth, I felt compelled to share the revelations that had changed my life. Now, as I began this journey, I knew I had a mission to reach those who felt trapped, suffocated by the deception that surrounded them. In my new role, I sought out others who were yearning for connection and understanding. I visited community centers and engaged in conversations with anyone willing to listen. Many people shared their struggles, tales of feeling lost within the confines of tradition, their souls aching for something more. I listened intently as they poured out their hearts, feeling their pain resonate with my own. With every interaction, I felt the urgency of the spiritual war we were all fighting, a battle against hidden agendas crafted by the elite who thrived on our ignorance and division. Each conversation served as a reminder of our shared humanity and the truth that binds us together. As I shared my own story, I spoke of the overwhelming love I encountered in Jesus, the revelation that opened my eyes to the realities of our world. I explained how the political and social structures around us are often built on layers of deception, designed to keep us docile and compliant. I told them about how technology, which was supposed to connect us, often isolates us instead. The more I spoke of the truths I had witnessed, the more I could see hope flickering in their eyes. It was as if a door had been opened, allowing the light of understanding to seep through the cracks of their hearts. With each meeting, my conviction deepened. I knew that my voice could be a tool for change, a means of encouraging others to seek their own truth. I organized small gatherings where we could discuss our beliefs and fears openly. The energy in those rooms was palpable, charged with the spark of awakening. Each story shared galvanized us, igniting a collective desire to challenge the narratives that had kept us apart for far too long. I recognized that together we formed a powerful force, a community ready to rise up against the deception that had infiltrated our lives. Yet, even amidst this newfound purpose, the fear of losing my family lingered like a shadow. I worried that my commitment to this path could sever the ties that had connected me to my loved ones. Would they ever come to understand the truths I now embraced? Each day, I balanced this fear against my responsibility to share the light I had found. And while I felt the weight of this struggle, I also felt a growing strength fostered by the support of my new community. I was determined to navigate this spiritual war with courage, armed with the truth I had uncovered, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that my journey could inspire others to join in the awakening and reclaim the light that had been dimmed by fear and deception. Years have passed since I first encountered Jesus during my near-death experience, yet the journey of awakening continues to unfold. I am Amir, a prosecutor now thriving in an active Christian community, where my testimony resonates deeply with others seeking the truth. Each week, I share my story, reflecting on the transformation that set my life on a new course. My heart swells with joy as I witness the impact my words have on those eager to break free from the chains of deception. They listen intently, eyes wide with hope and curiosity, drawn in by the message of love and liberation I strive to convey. Yet, despite the warmth of this new family, a deep yearning to reconcile with my biological family lingers in the shadows of my heart. I often think of them, especially my parents, who hold fast to traditional views that now feel stifling to me. Their confusion and disappointment haunt me. I can only imagine their bewilderment when they see me engaging in discussions that challenge the very fabric of the beliefs they raised me with. I want them to understand the profound love I've found in Jesus, the revelation that transformed my life and opened my eyes to the spiritual war we all face. With every interaction, I grapple with the hope that one day they might accept my journey. I understand that change is hard for them, just as it was for me. I vividly recall the moment when the light of truth pierced the darkness of my previous understanding, revealing the hidden agendas of the elite, the manipulation that perpetuates fear and division in our society. As I attend church services and community gatherings, I see parallels to the struggles my family faces back home, where rigid interpretations often blind people to the truth and love that Jesus embodies. In sharing my testimony, I aim not only to enlighten, but also to create a dialogue, a bridge between my past and my present. I recount the moments of clarity I experienced during that time with Jesus, the visions of a deeper truth that transcend religious boundaries and the urgency of our collective awakening. I've learned to dissect the social and political implications of our beliefs, recognizing that the division that persists in our communities is often a result of deception perpetuated by those in power. The discomfort I felt in my past now serves as a catalyst for seeking justice and truth in the world around me. Still, the battle for my family's acceptance remains a silent war within me. I remain committed to my mission, believing that the truth I've discovered can also awaken them. My desire for reconciliation fuels my passion, prompting me to explore patient ways to share my journey and inspire understanding. I know that to stand firmly in the light means also to evolve from the shadows of my past. As I navigate this spiritual path, I hold on to the hope that one day my family will join me in this journey of awakening, embracing the love that Jesus offers, a love that knows no bounds, transcends all barriers, and shines a light into the darkest corners of our experiences. As I stand here, reflecting on this incredible journey we've traversed together, I must ask you something. Do you feel the stirring within your own spirit? Have you experienced that familiar tug, the whisper of awakening echoing through your own heart? You see, the battle we face is not just mine. It's a universal struggle, echoing across the world we share. In this moment of profound stillness, I realize that we are all entwined within a larger tapestry, woven together by a divine purpose that transcends our individual stories. My encounter with Jesus was not merely a personal revolution. It was a call to arms, a plea for awareness amid the chaos that governs our society. Each of us is a piece in this grand puzzle, and our collective awakening could very well shift the tides of oppression that bind so many. I invite you to dive deep into your own experiences. Have you felt the pull toward truth or the weight of your own silence in moments of revelation? I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, your voice matters. You are not alone in this struggle, and together we can forge a path toward illuminating the dark corners of our existence. If this message resonated within you, I urge you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. Activate the notification bell, for the revelations we will uncover together are just beginning. In the coming weeks, we will delve into further testimonies that illuminate the divine truth hidden beneath the surface of our lives. This journey is more than individual enlightenment. It's a movement of awakening, a clarion call to those who seek a life not dictated by fear, but driven by love and authenticity. As we close tonight's chapter, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for joining me on this journey. You have taken a brave step toward truth, and in that courage lies the essence of our collective potential for transformation. I'm Amir, and as we part ways for now, I leave you with this reminder. The truth is not just something to be discovered, It's something to be lived, shared, and relentlessly pursued. Let us walk this path together, hand in hand, as beacons of light in a world yearning for redemption. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and above all, stay brave.